When you hear that over 140 countries have agreed on something as massive as a global minimum tax, you'd think it's a done deal. But it seems some serious cracks are starting to appear.
That's a good way to put it. What seemed like a solid international consensus is now facing its first real stress test.
And that test is happening in Europe's top court, right? It's set to review the legality of this 15% global minimum corporate tax for the first time, all stemming from a Belgian lawsuit. The case is specifically targeting something called the Undertaxed Payment Rule, or UTPR.
Right, and this is a huge deal. The UTPR is basically the enforcement mechanism, the teeth of the whole system. You could think of it as the keystone in an arch. If the European Court of Justice decides to pull that stone out, the entire structure of the global tax could collapse across the EU.
I see. So it's not just a minor tweak, and it sounds like the political will is starting to wobble too. Just before this court referral, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz actually called for the EU to suspend the whole thing.
That timing is critical. It came right after the G7 discussed a potential carve-out for U.S. multinationals. So Merz's comment is basically him looking across the Atlantic and saying, wait, if the U.S. isn't playing by the exact same rules, why should we? It shows the political solidarity is fraying.
That makes sense. And I imagine this court case is just encouraging more companies to push back. The materials mentioned they're worried about the cost and complexity, especially now that the U.S. has this carve-out.
Exactly. That U.S. deal created a real sense of an unlevel playing field. European companies are looking at their American competitors and thinking, so we have to deal with this massive compliance burden, but you get a pass? That's a very powerful motivator to start challenging the system in your local court.
So we have a core legal challenge that could dismantle the whole thing, political leaders getting cold feet, and corporations feeling they're at a competitive disadvantage. It really feels like this landmark agreement is on shaky ground.
It absolutely is. The whole thing hinges on this European Court of Justice ruling. A negative decision on the UTPR could invalidate the rule across the entire bloc, effectively neutering the tax. When you combine that with the political pressure and the corporate backlash over the U.S. carve-out, it's clear the global minimum tax is facing a landmark legal challenge that could determine its entire future.